10. Interesting facts about 17th century England. Samuel Pepys's housekeeping bill was £7 per month. 1 penny bought a pound of cheese or 3 herrings. 6 pence bought a leg of beef or a lemon. Samuel Pepys, born February 23, 1633, London, England, died. London was an English diarist and naval administrator, celebrated, which gives a fascinating picture of the official and upper-class life of Restoration London from January 1, 1660 to May 31, 1669. Katherine of Braganza, Charles II's Portuguese wife, is credited with making tea drinking popular in England. Tea was generally considered to be a lady's drink and often consumed by the mistress of a house and her friends in her closet or bedchamber. Katherine of Braganza was Queen of England, Scotland and Ireland during her marriage to King Charles II, which lasted from May 21, 1662 until his death on February 6, 1685. Shoes were designed to fit either foot. Women of quality wore beautifully embroidered shoes that were impractical in the filthy streets. Pattens had a wood and iron sole, often raised by as much as 4 inches, and were tied over the decorative slippers to lift the wearer above the mud. Styles worn by both men and women were slippers, which were heeled slip-on shoes with no upper covering the heel, worn at home or for casual events, and overshoes worn over other shoes to protect them from inclement weather, dirt, and puddles. A girl could be married when she was as young as 12 and a boy at 14. A marriage didn't have to take place in a church, and all that was required was to make a declaration. Theoretically, it was possible for 2 people to marry very young. The minimum legal age was 12 years for women and 14 years for men. In addition, it was possible for the couple to get engaged at the age of 7, with the right to break off the engagement on reaching the minimum age of consent. Water ran under the streets of London in elm pipes from a reservoir in Islington. Subscribers paid 6 shillings a quarter to have a cistern in their cellar connected to the supply by a lead pipe. Water flowed into the cistern on 2 or 3 days a week. The less well-off collected water from the public conduits. This is a section of wooden water pipe that carried water from Clerkenwell Round Pond to the City of London. The pipes were made from tree trunks, mainly elm, bored through from end to end. This piece was dug up when ground was being prepared for the Northampton Institute in Clerkenwell in 1902. 78% of women were illiterate in the 1670s, but 20 years later, this figure had shrunk to 52%. Quakers believed in women's intellectual capabilities, and 8-year-old girls who could read well at Mrs. Makin's school at Tottenham received instruction in Latin, French, Greek, Hebrew, Italian and Spanish. Tonson. Well, literacy in 18th century England is actually a much debated subject. Some numbers suggest that literacy is as low as 30%. 52. Other figures state that literacy remained fairly steady between 1700s to 1790, for men around 60%, while it rose in women from 40 to 50%. Hackney carriages first became available in 1625 at the Maypole in the Strand. By 1662, 400 licenses, each costing £5, were granted, and charges laid down of 18 pence for the first hour and 12 pence thereafter. From the Inns of the Court to Westminster cost 12 pence. A hackney or hackney carriage is a carriage or car for hire. A hackney of a more expensive or high class was called a remise. During the Great Fire of London, the lead roof of St. Paul's Cathedral melted and gushed out of the rain spouts, forming a molten river that flowed down Ludgate Hill. What damage did the Great Fire of London cause? 436 acres of London were destroyed, including 13,200 houses and 87 churches. Most, notably St. Paul's Cathedral, was completely gutted. What remained of the cathedral was unworkable, so it was demolished, and 9 years later work started on a replacement building. Water was rarely safe to drink in the cities, and ale or beer was the usual way to quench thirst. By the middle of the 17th century, there were 50,000 alehouses in England, one for every 100 inhabitants. The alehouse was, then, a space that was central to the recreational, and indeed working, lives of both ordinary men and women in 17th century England. and studying them offers us a fascinating window onto various aspects of everyday life in the English past. Syphilis, known as the Great Pox, was common, and the usual treatment was for the sufferer to be brought up to simmering point in a bath of mercury. If the mercury didn't send the patient mad, the pox ate away his nose and made his hair fall out. Even if there had been an apparent cure, 30 years later the sufferer could become paralyzed or demented. The late 1700s, researchers have speculated that over 1/5 of Londoners had contracted syphilis by their 35th birthday. Amongst men, the disease is thought to have been common amongst those living hand-to-mouth at the margins of London's economy. Thanks for tuning in. Always remember that history is fun when you're around.